sometimes you go through an experience that's truly life-changing. Um, Jonathan Cohen has gone through an experience of being hit with cancer, unexpected, uninvited, and how he's responded to that challenge is something that's been inspiring to me, and we've spent more time in the past few weeks than we ever spent in our life together, and I'm so grateful to share this conversation where he takes us through that morning that he woke up, had a headache, and couldn't get out of bed, whereas the day before he was running around and had just gotten off an international flight, and everything that transpires from that morning to the hospital, how he's receiving visitors, how he's getting through this on the inside, and how he's also finding the energy that he can give and the energy that it gives him to give others a smile and to show up. There's so much practical wisdom, so much personal wisdom, and so much soulful stories in this episode. I can't wait to share it with you. Wow, what a treat. We're here to sit with you, Jonathan Cohen, and to have a chance to have this conversation. I'm really, really grateful to have this time, to have this chat, and to just hear a bit more of your story and where you're at and how you're going through this.
Thank you so much. It's a real privilege and opportunity, and I can't wait to see what develops.
Yeah, totally. So I don't know the best way to jump in, but maybe, what happened in December? What was happening prior to that Shabbat morning, and what happened on that morning?
So thank you so much for asking. I think life was just normal, and everything just was in a flow. The Shabbos before, my wife and I and my daughter went to America, go visit my son who lives there, and we had my nephew's bar mitzvah. And we really got to enjoy ourselves, spend some time in America, and we didn't realize that it was a very intimate type of celebration. It was just immediate family, no one from the outside. Shabbos day, they had a nice celebration for the people from their synagogue, but everything else was just the immediate family and just special bonding time. And
Where is this?
This is in North Woodmere, New York.
So you have your parents and
my parents were there. My younger brother flew in. My family, 4 of us out of 8 were there. My brother's family, which is a family of 8. And then from my sister-in-law's side, they had also very intimate, a few brothers, sisters, a mother. Family came in from Toronto. We were a total of 23 people. Now I'm a little bit more cautious when I hear small numbers at parties, and I realize that sometimes smaller is better because you actually are spending time with people who actually know the person who's celebrating, especially here was the bar mitzvah boy. And I really got a chance to get to know him. I was the one who got to walk into shul on Shabbos.
The bar mitzvah boy.
The bar mitzvah boy, and talk to him about his excitement. They had just switched shuls a few months earlier, and I asked him how many times he's davened, prayed in this synagogue, and he told me it was his 3rd time.
Wow.
Just because a parent goes somewhere doesn't always mean the kids run to where the parents go. And I said, I'm proud that I get to walk you. I knew that my brother was probably going to come a few minutes late. He does have a child with Down syndrome, so it takes sometimes a little bit longer to get everything organized. And I made sure to sit next to Aaron, the bar mitzvah boy in shul. And it was nice to see an American also celebration. It's very different here in Israel. Most people come just for the Kiddush. Here in America, if you know the family. Here in America, people will actually come because they know you, the family. Meaning they'll go to shul and they'll actually be part of the celebration. In Israel, people will just come afterwards to wish you a mazel tov, congratulations, but they won't automatically come pray with you. Which now, looking at 2 sides of the coin, I think it's more important to be there for the bar mitzvah boy and to hear him in whatever it is that he's doing, whether he's praying, whether he's reading from the Torah portion, and part of throwing the candies. And I came out of that Shabbos on cloud 9, just because I felt like I really was part of the celebration. And many times I see people go for a celebration and they're just, I'm sure we'll get back to just checking a box as I was there for my family, but how were you actually there for them emotionally, mentally? So that was very special. I had come back to America on Sunday night. My wife stayed a few extra days with my daughter because once you go to America, you want to do some touring and you want to get in the sights. But as I mentioned, I have a son that lives there and just spend some time with him. I went on that Thursday night, which was December 5th. We had very close friends who had a askara, a memorial for their son who was killed in the army last year in the war. And it was a very moving evening. Just different speeches, Shlomo Katz came to play instruments, and people were happy to see each other, but I think everybody was focused on the event of being there for the Early family and to remember Binyamin Early. And my wife came home, say midnight, Thursday night, Friday morning. Friday, I wanted to make sure Shabbos was, set up. My wife get to sleep a little bit, just so we go into Shabbos normally. But our house is always open, and we had even my niece and nephew come to sleep. I asked for Shabbos. I asked for my wife if we could just have Friday night, just a quiet meal, just ourselves, just regroup. We haven't been together for about 10 days now with all the different celebrations, and we had a beautiful Friday night meal. After the meal, we walked to my mother-in-law's house, lives 2 minutes away, spent some time there. She had company, we were schmoozing, we were talking. Then we walked to Pircha Soloveitchik and Chaim Soloveitchik, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Had a beautiful meal or beautiful conversation during or at the end of their meal. But the one thing that we remember from that conversation is that even at a person who turns 50, I'm only 49, but even a person who's 50 sometimes can change their jobs, can change their trajectory. And my brother at age 52 changed his parnasa, his job in terms of what he does. He's the CEO of Elgemeiner. And at age 50, he actually had a baby, which is like his favorite child. I said it, and I think everybody knows it. And we were looking at each other of like, sometimes we feel not that we're stuck in what we're doing, but can we doing more for the greater good of the world?
That was Friday night, and you remember this conversation?
Friday night, I remember that conversation. And we joke around about it because we had no idea what was in store for us the next morning. Someone else remembers a conversation I had that lives between my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law. I can't put the timetable together, but he said he was so thankful I gave his brother like a half hour of time to talk about. He had just moved to Israel and was looking for a job, and just to brainstorm ideas. I remember
was on Friday night, or
this was Friday night at some point. I just can't remember when. I actually spoke in shul Friday night in the middle of shul, saying an idea, and then Shabbos morning came, Saturday morning came.
So that just gives an idea of the pace and the way that Jonathan Cohen rolls.
Yeah.
That Friday night is a pretty good encapsulation. You had landed Thursday for an azkara, prepared the house, got everything ready so your wife could be a chance to resettle, and then you had an intimate Friday night meal, but that wasn't enough. Then it's time to go. Now the socializing
then we go
with
for
the family,
the
going visiting the mother-in-law.
That's more my wife, less about me, but I can't automatically sing my wife's praises too much.
And then you find out afterwards that also along the way, baderech, there were other sacred encounters.
Yeah.
That you don't even remember as being that significant, but someone else was touched by that encounter.
And he even came to me a few weeks later when he saw me on the street and said, thank you so much, because even if it didn't get him that specific job that he was looking for, it gave him ideas of how to put his life together or reach out to other connections. So that was
such a baderech moment on the way.
On the way.
These very.
I feel like we're talking about Judah Michelle without talking about Judah Michelle.
This is a plug for
where
Judah
he
Michelle
was there
and
Thursday night, where I made sure that he was able to just be Judah Michelle, spending some time with his mechuta and Jake Vidam-Lansky, without needing what we call paparazzi, and just able to just be a Ben Adam, just being a person.
Judah is not a sponsor of this episode, but
he might be after this.
But I encourage you, if Jonathan Cohen's stories don't get you or whet your appetite, then you can get many, many more in Judah's book Baderech and his new Haggadah for Passover. Yeah.
Beautiful, unbelievable.
Yeah. So then we go to sleep at some point.
We go to sleep, and we were talking how we had a kiddush on Saturday morning for my new great niece. Okay.
And you're 49.
I'm 48 at the time.
48.
48 at the time. We said how I go to shul at 8:15 in the morning. not go to the normal 9 o'clock, don't sleep in late because I want to be there. It's about
Yeah.
a 15-minute walk to Katlav, the other side of town. And we were excited. You know, it's always nice to have a simcha, a celebration in the family, even if the baby won't get to know me for a while. But it's always nice when my wife's family gets together. So I said to my wife, we'll wake up, we'll go to 8:15 minyan, or at least I'll go there. Maybe she'll go to a little bit later minyan, but enough time to get there for 11 o'clock celebration. We happened to have woken up at 7:40 in the morning. I turned over, I said, Sivi, what time is it? 7:40. I said, shul's not free till 8:15. I said, let's go back to sleep. She goes, okay, no problem. Great, I was feeling great. Nothing was bothering me. And she woke me up at 8:20. She said, Jonathan, you're late for shul. And that's where everything just changed. I tried to turn over, I couldn't turn over. I said, Sivia, I had this massive headache. She's like, okay, take some Advil. I said, I can't move. She's like, come on, the good wife always tells the husband, is like, it's not a, real issue.
Ezer Kenegdo.
Then I said to her, Sivia, I feel like my brain is bleeding and my brain is on fire. Now, I would call those trigger words that like we're in an emergency situation, but like, again, maybe we don't realize what's really going on. People rumored that I fainted in shul or I collapsed on the floor. None of that was true. And I just stayed in bed. I couldn't move. My wife, somehow understanding my desperation, we have a doctor that lives literally next door. Probably, say to walk down the stairs, knock on his door, make sure he's home. Probably took about 7 minutes. And she just wanted to get him to come up and just tell me that I have a headache and take some Advil and keep going. My daughter just opened the door. She's 10 years old. And she was sort of watching me during those 7 minutes. She was lying on me. As she said, I was snoring, breathing very, very heavily. Just trying to show signs of being alive. And I asked her weeks later, because the day itself is very hard to ask someone to go through it for you, or you just don't believe it. And she told me she was lying on me and she was saying some psalms. She was saying some Tehillim. When I asked her which Tehillim she said Mizmor Kuf, 100. And that actually was the Mizmor that I asked people to say for me, because there's a very special verse there that says, Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, that we should serve Hashem with happiness. And I said, why'd you choose that one of 150 choices? And she said, that's the one I know by heart. I was blown away. It was very, very special and very meaningful. And when the doctor came, he saw that I was, I guess, more unconscious, or that I needed to really get to a hospital immediately. There was no fun and games. I did say to the doctor, what did you do to tell that there was something really wrong? He says, well, I poked you. So I said, but you're from London. People from London tap. They don't poke. He goes, trust me, I was a doctor that day. I was not like your friend. So they called for different ambulances to come. And Baruch Hashem, eventually through Ichud Hatzalah, hope I got it right, and Mada, they got me to the hospital. One of the people from Mada who actually was in that ambulance, he saw me this past week. This is about 16 weeks and 1 day later. And he said, you were dead. You were not alive. And he did go to visit me, I guess, the next day on Sunday, and he saw that I was talking. I looked alive, and he was just in shock. So the rest of the day of Saturday is really more up to my wife and the surgeons, because they were in the hospital in Hadassah taking care of them. They're amazing, amazing people, and I thank everybody who was just so professional. I only found out weeks later, a week and a half ago, that one of the nurses pushed to make sure that they kept me alive. She read my chart and said, here's a guy who at the time was still 48, with 6 children, and this is not someone who has, finished off his life already. Now again, we have concepts of we live because we have a mission to accomplish, and whenever a person's time is, that's because hopefully we've fulfilled our mission. But she told the doctors, you have to do whatever you can.
Wow.
My wife actually said to the doctor afterwards, post facto, the only difference between real surgery, which I had brain surgery that day, and Grey's Anatomy, which is a TV show, which I'm sure many people have watched, is that in the middle of Grey's Anatomy, they come out in the middle of the surgery to update the family of what's going on. Here, you're dealing with real life, so I don't know if you have that time or luxury to go outside, share information. So my wife was outside for the rest of Shabbos, saying Tehillim, just thinking. You don't have your phone. There's not really people around you. You're walking around and just like, you'd have to ask her. That's like a very personalized 5.5, 6 hours. That's her time and her story, not anybody else's.
And the kids are home, and they're
The
also
kids are home.
without.
We had Pircha's family, I think, sent some people here to eat with them. They were very, on this side of the coin, back in Ramat Beit Shemesh, when my kids went to walk to the Kiddush, because they wanted things to be as normal as possible, they bumped into the Soloveitchiks, and they said, let's not say anything. Let's not let the Kiddush take a damper and all of a sudden change the
So this
motif.
was a celebration you were supposed to go to, so your kids went, but they didn't tell their aunt and uncle.
They didn't tell anybody else about what was going on. Everything was very, very quiet. And it was very impressive because sometimes when you have something that you want to either get off your chest, so they at least have their aunt and uncle that knew, because they said, oh, where are your parents? And they said, well, they went to the hospital, but was snoring or not really moving. So that was also scary for them because they don't know exactly what had happened, but they knew that if he went to the hospital, something must have been an emergency. And then they had to step up as the parents of how do you manage your children? How do you just manage the rest of the brother-in-laws and mother-in-laws? And one of my sister-in-laws was waiting after Shabbos by my mother-in-law's house to then tell her the news the first time that something's off. Again, you'd have to ask my mother-in-law her first reaction. They called my sister-in-law, Chavi Stern, and on a phone call, what their first reaction is. To call my daughter, who is not with us for Shabbos, she's married. So her reaction and how everybody just moves. And it's like, go. And if I recall correctly, Pircha came with my mother-in-law, and my daughter came with my son-in-law from where they were for Shabbos. So at Motzei Shabbos, Saturday night, they could have, be there with my wife just to, share, vent. And my daughter was there for, I remember she was holding my hand. I'm going to get the story wrong, but like all I wanted was Havdalah. Like somehow, just the entire first week, I just wanted to do things that, I don't want to say check off boxes, but that could keep me motivated, keep me just going. Again, I didn't even really understand. I used the concept every time of, well, this can't be as bad as brain surgery. So you need to prick me, you need to take blood, you need to put an IV. It hurts. And I was scared of blood growing up. They used to pay me to take shots.
How much?
I think I remember one time $34. Why that number rings a bell, I have no idea. You got paid also?
No.
No, you were good.
No, I should have.
They used to have to sit on me to, now I think hopefully I've grown up now. It's still not always easy, but, and I have a little bit. No.
Can you imagine what you could have negotiated for brain surgery? Like if getting a shot was $34?
Yeah. Otherwise, I guess I was dead or not dead, so I can't, I don't remember. People say like, what do you remember that day? After being in my house, being taken down the staircase, I remember bits and pieces in the ambulance, but not really. Obviously you feel motions. I can't tell you any of the conversations.
So you remember being there, your daughter's holding your hand. You remember wanting to make Havdalah at the end of Shabbos?
Yeah.
And then where do we go from there?
It was more of them just taking control. My wife, my daughter, of like, should Abba have his phone, not have his phone? Abba needs to rest right now. Some other person came to visit me that night, literally like an Elio on Navi, which I'm still trying to get in touch with, which has been a little bit difficult, who also was very helpful, protexia, or just knowing the right words. And I was just a patient of just whatever I could. I couldn't walk. I had a walker, but I needed help to go to the bathroom. In the bathroom itself, they gave me the privacy just in case. Showering was not easy, and especially since I had a lot of pains and boo-boos. My whole head was bandaged in white. My kids wanted my head to be bandaged because they were scared of what they were looking at. My kids did come visit that first week. I also found out on Tuesday, only 3 days later, my brother came to visit me. He's like, how does that staple feel? I'm like, the what? He goes, yeah, you have a staple right here. I was, those type of things do scare me. So I was like, oh, let's make sure then that the head covering is covering the staple. I didn't want to make it awkward for myself. I think I wasn't looking in a mirror, but that first week, everybody that came, thank you so much, because that really helped me. Musicians came, some famous musicians came, friends came, not just once. That's also, we'll talk about later, like checking off a box of like, I came, I did my duty. And I've seen a little bit of the difference of visiting a friend who's sick versus someone who's sitting Shiva, who's lost, a
Well,
close one.
let's just roll right into that. So over that week, suddenly, you're not able to run around the way you used to. Suddenly, you're not calling all the shots. You're not the man of the house that you were.
And my phone was taken away till everybody left that night.
So what was that? What was that shift like turning into a patient?
So being a patient was
Takes patience.
It takes patience, especially at night. The nighttime was the hardest, and we'll get to the nighttime. But during the day, they wake you up at any moment, meaning it's 4 a.m. Okay, you got to go take this pill, and you don't have any time to think about it. You just, okay, I'm taking a pill. Then they go to take your blood, and they go to take your blood pressure, which they felt was high some of the days. And I was like, I think you should take it on this side, not this side, but my veins are supposedly not so great. It's not easy to find, so that wasn't easy for them. The food, my taste buds were horrific. And even on Wednesday and Thursday, they brought me like chillent, and they brought me deli roll, but it just I was very appreciative. And I guess because they were close friends, I love you all dearly. It's not that I don't like your cooking. I love your cooking. It's just my taste buds wouldn't allow me to enjoy it. And I was also trying to find. So hot soup was amazing. Liquid was amazing. I think I lost like 10 pounds that first week. We tried to get Cheyennes, which was my favorite food. And anybody wants to get me Cheyennes, you're more than welcome to. There's a great soup there. This king.
Which soup, just so we know?
It's it's like a wonton soup.
Yeah.
And it's hot. It was,
Cheyenne's wonton soup versus Chosen on
oof,
Avenue.
Wow. Or Wingwan in West Hempstead.
Oh, now we're going to West Hempstead.
Oh, West Hempstead is amazing. And there in West Hempstead, the sweet and sour chicken. But Chosen also has some great dishes. I enjoy the Chinese stuff.
But they don't deliver here.
I don't think either. And, yeah,
Cheyenne's
they're
the way to
not.
go.
And we're going to have Pesach soon. So, but it's more about the camaraderie. I had these 2 roommates. One was somebody who lives in the old city, doesn't really know Jewish music at all, but yet the Jewish music that was being played, it was music to their heart. And they never told me, turn it off. And I have a roommate that's also a whole dynamic. My second roommate was someone who was in a motorcycle accident, and every 20 minutes the clock refreshes. And he asks you, why you have that on your head? Why? And like, you have to learn
Traumatic
to be patient.
brain injury. It's like,
yeah. And they're an amazing family. And the mother or the father was there at his call, and he's already 5 months later, and they're taking care of him. They love him. I do see a little bit of a difference of the patience that a wife has versus a father has, or a mother versus a father, just in terms of dealing with your own child. I think that was also very powerful.
What would you say about that?
I think a mother, because it's their son, has that extra patience. The father has that patience, but sometimes it's like, don't bother the neighbor, as opposed to figure out how to bring it together. They also...
And that's normal.
That I don't know what was normal. I never slept in a hospital like that.
But the observation for dads that find themselves in that place, maybe not to be so tough on themselves. In other words,
yeah,
there's certain
sure.
normalcy that fathers, there's a dynamic.
Yeah, yes,
And
yes.
they can't be a mother.
Correct, because a mother could do 32 things at the same time, and my wife was managing the household, managing siblings, managing a phone, managing people want to come and visit, and just even one thing I tell my wife is overwhelming just to manage. And she was doing it all, and she was doing amazing. And again, I'll say it again, she hates when I sing her praises because she doesn't like the praise. She doesn't need
That's
the
part
praise.
of the praise.
Yeah, I think a lot of women, a lot of people know my wife and they know how special she is. And she does it because she does it. That's just her nature. Part of the strategy was not sleeping in the hospital at night because you need to get a good night's sleep, even though the patient needs it. But there's not much that you could really do for them because hopefully you'll sleep. I didn't, but that's the goal. You need to recoup. Your children need you. Other people need you. The house needs, just food, and they know what is needed. So many of the neighbors were so good. And I could tell you that, not to call out one neighbor over another one, but instead of saying, what's your favorite restaurant? And we'll take you there for dinner. Actually, two people I'm thinking about now. One just gave a voucher to ice cream store so that you just go and you do it so that you don't have to think about it. And another one came one night. It was amazing. Just said, he goes, Aunt Sivia, I'm taking the kids out to whatever meat restaurant it is. Again, not thinking twice, not giving an option of how I could help you. They just did it.
Don't think, just do.
Just do. And that young man is just got married this week.
Wow.
And we went to his wedding, and he introduced my wife to everybody as Aunt Sivia. Just in terms
he's not a
of
relative.
That. Not a relative, but he's been a Ben Bayit. He's been by us so many times. A good friend of my son, and very special young man.
Tell us about you become a patient. You certainly are not an invalid, but you become a patient. People want to visit you. People want to. It almost became a thing. You have quite a network of people that you're connected to, people that you work with, that you've been there for them, professionally, personally, etc. And then now you're receiving visitors, and people want to show up for you. And then you have this status on your WhatsApp, which was always a thing to showcase other people. But it becomes a place where people see, oh, look who visited JoCo, look who visited Jonathan Cohen. I mean, lahavdil. When we grew up, they were like Madonna. Like people with like one name, that was their moniker. But like, thankfully we have JoCo. I mean, I don't have such a thing. You're JoCo, Jonathan Cohen.
Wow.
That's the,
I'm even sporting the shirt today, thanks to Flash.
Let's hear it for Flash. So we got all this stuff, but it becomes a thing because you see on the status who visited JoCo today. So you were telling me that there are visitors and there are visitors. What do you want to say about that?
So I guess
and
also
informative. It's not to rip on people, but rather to really be instructive and informative. If you're someone that wants to be visiting someone who's not well, who could use a visit, what are some things we could take as
so I'll tell
lessons?
you, I think there's definitely different stages. The hospital that first week, and I guess thankfully I was in Hadassah in Kerem, which is closer to Yerushalayim, and therefore people who live in Yerushalayim, it's a lot easier, it's a lot closer. The parking I know is not easy, so thank you everybody who did it. And even for people from Ramat Beit Shemesh and Beit Shemesh I came, it's a little bit further, it's a little bit harder. It's like when I'm home, it's easier for people to drop by. But I'll tell you that first week, there were certain people who were like, they weren't even thinking about themselves. They were thinking about what can we do to put a smile on your face. And Michael Olshan, who made a wedding last night, he was able to bring Shmuel, who's a famous singer. And it wasn't just even about me. My kids were so excited. And a lot of just what's going on is I might be the patient, but part of the best visiting that people do is they want to know how my wife's doing. They want to know how my kids are doing. Shout out to Chayenu, who came on Hanukkah time. They brought presents to my kids, not to me. I'll somehow manage or I'll figure it out. But it's nice that people take the time to check on them. And also that first week, we had my rabbi that I listened to his Torah shiurim on of Gemara and Mishnayos, Rabbi Zachariah Reznik, and the All Mishnah and All Daf, where he came. And whether he came on his own or I think someone said, oh, I made sure he came, doesn't make a difference. He came. And he said, I heard you like guitar and you like music, so I'm here to also play for you. And also, sometimes if you come by yourself versus you come with a group, sometimes playing music's a little bit easier. There were random people who visit the hospital who play music and put smiles on your face.
You told me the importance of the smile.
That's unbelievable as a smile, because that goes back to now triggering even from my daughter and from Hadass Lowenstern of even when we're going through tough times, there's this kapitel kuf that talks about Ivdu ad Hashem besimcha, of just, yes, we're allowed to get upset, we're allowed to get angry, and that's a whole story that could share with Racheli Frankel just 2 weeks ago. Sometimes we're the happiest people in the world because
Racheli Frankel?
Racheli Frankel, her son was one of 3 boys that were kidnapped outside Gush Etzion by a hitchhiking stop, or trampiata in Hebrew. And for 18 days they were looking for the 3 boys, and unfortunately he was killed. And she's become a very popular speaker. Another chaver of mine who's come to visit frequently, Rabbi Leo D., whose wife and 2 daughters were killed in a terrorist attack 2 years ago, so he had a memorial. He has a 16-year-old son and 2 other daughters that Baruch Hashem are alive and well, and doing what they're doing and doing very well for themselves. And he brought Rachel Frankel to be the keynote speaker. And the whole time I was thinking that today, that day, maybe I was either the hardest person in the room or one of the hardest people to be in that room today. But when I'm in a really good mood and I'm smiling, and I probably do it 85% of the time, trying to get to 90% of the time, I do feel like I'm the luckiest person. And not to say everybody go out and get cancer. It was literally a shock to me. But now that I'm more dealing with it, and now I'm 16 weeks and 6 days, I do feel very lucky and very fortunate of things that I get to do. And as the visitors have come, just to have more meaningful conversations. Part of what, we'll say, transitioned after the hospital visit, and the second week I was already now more back at home, and still many, many people came, and I appreciate it, and it was harder for me still to remember. But once I took more control of my schedule, so then I have a phone that's off, that I write down who has come, or I try to take pictures of people who have come so I could look back, just to see and remember, because people have told me they came to visit me and I didn't remember. That was a little bit harder for me to keep what was going on. And as time came on, I was seeing the difference of yeshivas that were coming to play music as a group. That was, someone said call it Grand Central Station. I called it heaven. There were boys that would come.
People don't understand. When you say Grand Central Station.
Grand Central Station is a New York term.
Well, no, we know what Grand Central Station is. But to picture a person with cancer at home with a patch, saying his house became Grand Central Station, I don't think anyone could really understand.
40, 50 people coming in and out, and literally 10, 12 hours a day. We had prayers in the house also, because I was still in a wheelchair at the time. It was hard for me to walk and get out. But having the prayers in my house, not the morning ones, which is a lot longer, 40 minutes to an hour, but the 10, 15-minute ones, that actually was very beneficial for people who are afraid, which I think is also important, that some people don't know how to make a visit. They want to make a visit, and to come pray and be part of a quorum made it easier, so that at the end, then they could take my prayer book, they could say hello to me and not have to feel that they stay for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. So that was actually very good. And after a few weeks when we stopped that, some of the adults came to me and said that, the kids in the neighborhood, they feel really, guilty because they're not comfortable coming to make you a visit, and they actually enjoyed it. And I said, I understand, but if I can now walk, I could go with a walker, and synagogue's only a 7-minute walk, or it should really be a 2-minute walk. But I should be doing that. I should be getting exercise. And I said, I'll find other ways to do my best to engage
I think
youth.
the importance of that, the power of that being like an on-ramp. It's so hard to know what's the first thing to do, or how to open up a conversation, or how to touch you, or not touch you, or talk to you,
Right.
or look at you. So sometimes having something that's not direct, taking the prayer book, the siddur, or having some, like you said, if there was an event in the house or something,
Yeah.
it makes it. easier
Definitely.
to initiate. So what were
Definitely.
some of the a tip of a recommended, appreciated type of visit for JoCo, and then
Excellent.
maybe an example of thank you for the intention, but that was not what I liked.
So usually we try to schedule when people come. Fridays is usually, we'll say, the best day because it's a lighter day, and just I was sick with fever for a number of weeks in a row, which meant that Thursday was the end saga. Sometimes I end up in the hospital, and then Friday will be a good day not to start running around, to just be home and people could come visit. During the week, it's more slotted if it makes sense or not, because I like to go out, do charity work.
We have to get to that too. We're going to
And
bookmark that.
yeah, but I don't, it's like not calling people out, but sometimes a person will say, I'm in the neighborhood, can I stop by now? I'm like, I'm in the hospital now. Like, I'm really sorry. Or like, I tried to visit you 3 times, but I didn't know. Why don't you schedule a visit? Like, I just feel like communication is still a hard thing in the generation that we live in with the WhatsApps. And even that, a person, it'll be easy for me to say is, when's a good day to come visit? I'll give you a great story.
You like that?
I love it because...
So if someone wants to send a message would be like, hey, I'd love to visit. When's a good day? Ask you, when's a good day for you?
It'll be amazing. I'll give you an example of a friend of mine, one of my mentors who passed away a few weeks ago, Moshe Kranzler. He used to be the head of admissions for Yeshiva University.
I actually just saw Ellie Kranzler in New York. We were talking.
Oh, wow. So he left me a message at the end of December, gave me some time to recoup. He himself was going through his own struggles or opportunities. And he called, he said, Jonathan, please tell me when's a good time for you to talk to me on the phone. And not for me just to call you and assume that you're going to answer the phone. And I found that to be so magical because he himself was going through the same thing and he knew what was good for him and healthy for him. And I think that's so important. I think it's also trying to figure out what to talk about. Actually, somebody like myself wants to hear more about them, or what's going on in their world, because it's not always so easy to open up to every single person. As I call it, I have people who are more in an inner circle, where I could really share anything and everything and any and every type of emotion. I could cry in front of them, and it's okay. And there's other people that I don't want to say it's a check-the-box type visit, but it is like a check-the-box type visit.
What does that mean?
That means that I would like to come, and if it works out, great. But if it doesn't work out, at least I'm thinking of you. But
and once I come,
then it's more like, what do you want to talk about? Because I don't know if they want to hear my hawk. I'm not so much into the hawk because I don't need to get down and be like, I haven't spoken to you in 4 weeks. You have no idea what I've been going through. You don't know that I've had fever, that I've been sitting in bed, or I've had shivers, or just like I could have used you 2 weeks ago. Or I have friends who are amazing. They say they won't come visit me. They said, I won't come visit you because I know you have other visitors, but you tell me you need me, I'm there in a second. So I know I could rely upon those people without having to, wait for it. And then there's everything like in between. I had a great story where a guy came to visit me. He'll be like a pop-in visitor. And he knows he'd come and go, and if he sees other people come, he'll just leave because he'll know like he didn't arrange to come, but he's just there to check him because maybe it could be a good chance. And he said there's a guy in America who really would love for us to FaceTime. He's just scared to do it himself. And I said, thank you so much. And that day I went and I reached out to that guy. Didn't wait for the FaceTime opportunity. I waited to open the door for him. And there's so many people that are waiting for the doors to open. So I think that's where you talked about the status, which is exciting, but also dangerous weapon. Dangerous in the sense I got a lot of people...
Powerful tool.
Yeah.
Powerful, it can be a powerful tool in one direction, and it can also be powerful
a challenge, I'll say, because people wrote to me and said, we don't feel that we need to reach out to you because we're following your status. We know exactly what's going on in your life. So one guy even said to me, goes, oh, how's your trip to America? I said, my trip to America? I said, I can't even fly right now. I don't even know if they'll give me insurance. But because they saw me posting a picture of something in the States, they just assumed that I was there. I'm in Ramat Beit Shemesh, I'm in Israel. I don't think I'm flying so quickly, but I do post other things as well. But I do like to show things that can be good. Some people know I try not to always get into a picture. But at the same time, it tells a great story where I don't want to say people's lives are boring. I'm sure everybody enjoys their lives, but these last 6 weeks, many people have come to me, whether that they're out of work or they're struggling with certain things that are going on at home. And I'm sure we all struggle with that. I'm struggling with the balance as well of, having a wife who's dealing with a cancer patient, or my kids with a father who has cancer, and people always looking at them. And we even had once that someone went over to one of my kids and said, "Are you so-and-so's kid?" And they're like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I feel so badly for you." So that's really bad advice of what to say. They want to be out and they just want to be themselves. My wife actually goes to a shir. She goes to a study group every Shabbos that they don't even know that her husband has cancer, because she needs her outlet. She plays basketball, she goes bike riding, but thank God she's getting back to her normal life, so that it's not 24/7. But in terms of checking off the box where people come, I don't know what they're looking for in the visit. I don't want to say, "Hi, why do you want to come visit?" But I would love to make it a meaningful one. So someone came last week. It was the cutest thing in the world. He did aromatherapy with me. And shout out to Eli Allen who did that, because my daughter, who's 15, sat there together for an hour making these beautiful small containers, not perfume, but of spices and smelling things of what works with what. And it was interactive. And that was an awesome visit. Or someone told me, "I'm taking my group to Poland, and we thought that we want to incorporate you, and can you share a message with our students?" So that's been amazing. Or somebody who's come to visit and say, "We'd love for you to come to speak in our seminary or our yeshiva, because we think you have a powerful message to share, but we just want to understand, are you up for it or are you not up for it? Are you up for visitors because somebody became the spokesperson on behalf of their neighborhood," not in a bad way, in a good way, of people also don't know what the protocols are.
Seems like it's a balance of taking the initiative and not holding back and thinking everything's sorted, and on the other hand, being considerate and asking when's a good time.
So I'll share with you, I guess maybe even just to wrap up this idea. I had one of my wonderful sister-in-laws over last week and said, "Jonathan, what do you want?" Because as we were talking it out, I myself can't always figure it out.
That's why I asked you today.
Yeah. How do you make it that it's a great visit? But I know that I'm sure she did it, or maybe her kids on her own, but I got 3 messages this week from her kids. Not even to say, "Hi, when can I come and visit you?" but more, "I just want to check in on you. How are you doing? What's going on?" Or maybe they'll wait. And, some people felt things of different projects. And someone came to visit me and they presented me a Haggadah that they did for my refuah. I just got it. I'll give you a copy when we're done, from Rabbi Michael Friedman, who I got connected to him through Akiva Naaman. And he made one in English, and then he made one in Hebrew. And I'm searching. Hopefully it won't be too hard, because once this goes out, but we want to give it out, the Haggadahs, to people who are Nova survivors, or someone who went through the trauma or tragedy of October 7th.
The focus is trauma.
Yeah,
and
trauma.
Healing from trauma.
And anyone that could benefit from it, or anybody that could put me in contact with someone, just either they could put a smile on my face, or I could put a smile on their face. I
What
think it
hit
was
you about the
beautiful.
Haggadah?
Exactly what you just said, just in terms of trauma and healing people and trying to put a smile on somebody, and something that allows a door to open where maybe I have no connection to you, but let's make a connection.
You're a walking Haggadah. You're a walking Haggadah. That's what I just thought of, because
the Maggid of telling
you
the
said,
story.
Yeah, well, you said how you become the patient. You're no longer calling the shots. You don't decide when you have your phone. And then you threw in, and I want to go to this. You said you started doing things, and there are days that I've reached out to you, and I said, hey, I'm thinking of you. Would today be a good day for a visit? And you're like, hold on. Today I've got this guy picking me up at 9:30. We have a very packed day. We're going down south. We're doing this. Then we have this thing. You're like, what's going on? Like why and how? Why is one question. Meaning, stay at home. Be cozy. You're dealing with these fevers and shivers, and you're not yourself. You're not bawling, But on the other hand, you're really moving mountains. And why do you do that? And how do you do it?
So I'll add in, I do take naps, and
Naps are good.
person shouldn't think that it's I cannot
Yeah, but I
do
take
a full
naps and I
day.
still don't pull off what you pull off.
So sometimes I'll take a nap on the car ride down, car ride home.
What are these things? Why do you do them and how do you do them?
So I have to preface this because I don't want someone to think, oh wow, look at him. He could.
I
People
told
say
you
to
to
me.
take naps. I told you. You
So
gotta
you've
make
told
sure.
me, and some days I feel bad because my daughter came to visit me 2 weeks ago during the week, and I really should have told her not to come because I was exhausted, and she came for 2.5 hours. And Yael, I apologize. I think I napped for 2 hours of those 2.5 hours.
Okay.
And then an hour and a half later, I was still exhausted. I do try getting to bed sometimes by 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And many people say, oh, that's what we do also. Okay. And when I lost some of my hair, now it's starting to grow back. And like, oh, I'm bald also. So thank you. I appreciate those type of things. But when I started this journey, one day, my wife and I went to Rofei Cholim Cancer Society. We had a meeting there, and we met with one of the rabbis there. And he said that something that's very therapeutic is to get out of the house. Don't always feel like you have to just be sitting. I'm telling you that when you get out, you just feel the air. Thank God this winter has been overall very good. That's what I remember. Someone could tell me it was pouring and it was raining, and yes, it could have been, and maybe those are the days that I was sick in bed. I have no idea. Then we realized that the OU Israel office it should be a 5-minute walk. It ended up being a 15 to 20-minute walk. And then we went there and I saw the smiles on the people who maybe some had visited me, some didn't get a chance to visit me. And they were just so excited to see me. And I said to Tzivia, I said, maybe this is something new that I should start doing. And if I could find people who have time, whether they're working, afternoon hours, or maybe they have availability at nights, that maybe we could go places and do things. And we started with somebody that I connected with in Netiv Asara. Last year I gone on
Netiv Asara is one of the communities outside of Gaza.
Correct, yeah, on the border. And we went on a trip there last year. And right before I got sick, randomly I went there. Random. Just want to go visit 9 or 10 days before I got sick. I went to go visit Yael. She's sister Hila that also lives in Netiv Asara. About 300 people have returned out of 1,000.
And this person, Yael, has a similar lifestyle, looks like you, talks like you? Or
I don't think so, no. She thinks that I'm the most religious person in the world because I'm from Beit Shemesh. She's blown away that someone from Netiv Asara could actually have a connection to someone from Beit Shemesh. I do try to reach out to all my new connections. I'll give away my secret, but I try every Friday to just wish them a good Shabbos, just to have a good weekend. And they write back, and we have this, weekend connection, but we try to get together. And some have come to visit me. I have someone from Ofakim came to visit me. Yael told me she's coming to Ramat Beit Shemesh also soon, which would be amazing to bring her to see what goes on here. Hanukkah time, we put together some money, and we got her family a ping pong table.
Tell the story. Why the ping pong table you talked about?
So again, Baruch Hashem, thank God that when you ask people, what do you need? What can we help you with? The answer is always like, nothing. And if you want to give a donation and then it's like, that's not why we did it.
She didn't want anything.
She was resistant. And finally, it was me and Akiva Naaman, and we looked at her and said, you know what? Hanukkah's coming up in a few weeks. I'm sure there's something your kids would love. And I saw her eyes just light up.
It's the same way you were appreciative when people did things for your kids.
And she wanted a ping pong table for her kids. And it turned out that one of those first days in the hospital, someone came to visit, heard the story, and she ended up filling in the rest of the money. Someone that I know, and when my daughter got the money, she thought she was getting a gift from, and it ended up, she said to her, I'll explain to you everything. And Baruch Hashem, we were able to get them ping pong table.
And what did you do for the family? I loved what you told me. How it became for the kids.
For the kids, they made it their dining room table now, and they bring in now the friends from the neighborhood who are there. She herself is a cook, so she brings in groups as well, and I'm sure they're using the ping pong table. And I'm not sure if it's easy or not to go tell your story, and it's her story to share, not my story. But when she saw me the first time after I got sick with a patch and a walking stick, she just thought it was, I don't say a joke, but she couldn't believe it. Like she had just seen me a few days earlier, like full of energy and full of everything. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're sick and you have cancer. And thank God I bring friends
To visit her.
to visit her. I'd love to bring some groups of husbands and wives as well, or females as well, just so that she could see that there's more than just males that live in Ramat Beit Shemesh. But amazing. We have a person in Ofakim that we also befriended, Itamar Elus, who's one of the police officers who helped on October 7th, and now he's getting an award from, I guess, his area for all the amazing work, and I brought a number of groups there. And he goes through the story, graphic, but I would say it's probably for kids at least 14 years old and older.
How do you see life? How do you see the world different today
So
than before?
it's also an amazing question. So many ways I see life differently now. Now, especially that.
I guess I just want to say you have a patch on one eye,
So that's what I was thinking about.
and you have the glasses, and at the same time, I think that there are things that you're seeing a lot clearer than I am.
True. So this eye we figured out is for more reading, not sight. This eye is more for sight. At this point, we went to Baruch Hashem, a specialist about 2 weeks ago, that thank God my double vision is not like this, because then you could choose where you want to look. My double vision right now is more narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And he said maybe in a month or two I could take off the patch and let's see what we're up to. If people see that I'm not wearing glasses, I don't have a patch, doesn't mean my eyesight's getting better. It just means I was a little bit too lazy. So sometimes that's like on a Friday night. After I shower, I just don't want to put on a new patch, or I'm very, very tired. So don't think that's a good sign. The people who write to me say, wow, you're getting so much better. Think before you write.
At our son's school, the principal, Rabbi Danny Myers, at the time, and he often holds books very close to his eyes. He often has his eyes and head in the books, in the text.
Wow.
And you could see that over time, his eyesight has deteriorated. So this person who spoke said, I'll never forget it, applies to you as well. He might not see well, but he sees good. To see the good.
I see amazing. I do see now clearer of nuances of other people, which sometimes scare me, where if I see somebody, they just look exhausted. Or I see sometimes how they're walking with their wife, or the attention they're giving their kids. I know I'm still working on it, but hopefully I'm seeing it from a whole new vision point. And
what do you see?
I see how I think in the world at large, we have to take a step back and try to be a little bit nicer to each other, even though, again, we're all going home with the same people. But,
You're talking about in our homes.
And outside our homes. I think inside our homes, nobody knows what goes on. That's like, unless you have windows that are wide open and the neighbors could hear. But I think outside the home, sometimes we do try putting on that facade that everything's good, but I sometimes see that facade that's a little bit more reality. Like, I can't believe you just spoke to your spouse like that. And like, I just heard that. Or I had a great line this week of somebody when we do go down of like, can you take my my husband out more often and get a smile on his face? Like, he's a little bit more down. It's not that they're down. Sometimes we all see life in the way that we're seeing it. Sometimes we just don't know what the other person's going through. Yesterday when I went for radiation yesterday, so one of the rules is you're not really supposed to like talk to the people around you. And there I am, hey, how are you? What's going on? I'm like, you don't know what's going on. So we did see somebody that we knew yesterday, and just being cautious of the conversations. And, what I could say to them or they could say to me, we're totally different stages, but we understand each other on the surface level. Definitely, each of us have our own shoes. And just like, I don't say the false brachas. I know they mean them well, but like, you should get ready, like, you should get better all tomorrow. I'm like, I got sick like today. Like, to get better, I know that there's a tahalich, there's a procession, and I know what I have coming up next week. And I know for myself that that's part of getting better. ChatGPT is a good thing to use, but it's also like, people tell me it's scary because when you read it, sometimes it puts you very down what you read, but it's also, they've been right on a lot of things. That's what I'm saying.
One of the things about ChatGPT that I've been thinking about a lot as how much it's accelerating, and I'm using a lot. I'm producing an incredible amount of content for the work that I do, but it doesn't make you feel something. When you
It
sit with a
makes
person,
me,
you can create a feeling, a piece of art, a piece of music, a
I
hug,
hear.
a smile can transmit a feeling. Not yet.
So for me, the ChatGPT gives me a sense a little bit of calmness and reality, of like an afterthought of like, this is what the doctor said, or this is what we conversed about, and then I see they give you options. They give you like 5 things that maybe this will, come up, and it's on the money.
Yeah. No, for
But
information.
for information, what I see of the potential future of different things, that makes me a little bit nervous. But at the same time, as the doctors tell me, I'm in a marathon. I don't know how long the marathon is going to be, but also important for people to realize, because I ask this loaded question each time I meet with my doctor. I hope he knows it's coming already, but like, am I fighting or am I managing? It's a loaded question. It's a real question. And that's something that, like, not to choke people up, but right now he told me I'm fighting, and I'm in the fighting stage.
What does that mean to you?
That means that people are davening for me.
What does fighting mean?
Fighting means that there's still opportunities to hopefully, I don't know what that means, to get my life back or my new life back, but we're going to do whatever we can to keep you alive. We're not just trying to keep you happy and make up stories, and at the end of the day, like, sorry. I like when they're real to me. I like when they can answer my questions. They're doctors, they're not God, and they know that, and they said we're going to try everything that we can. That's why some of the medication that I was on gave me fevers, so we have to make an adjustment. Some of the things started giving me hives, we have to make an adjustment. Maybe too much, too little. At the same time, we're trying to figure out what has also helped start to shrink my cancer. Is it the radiation that I've done, or is it the medication? These are where these professional people, through trial and error, have to figure out what they feel is best. I was put in a interesting situation just yesterday where one doctor said do A and one doctor said B, and they left the choice up to me. So I'll be honest, this time I played offense. Because if we're fighting, they tell you when you're a fighter, then don't just wait and sit back. And I took one of the doctors. I love each doctor. If they happen to hear this, you're all amazing, but I need to be a little bit proactive because I'm still the patient. And we did the radiation yesterday, and that's where I met some people in the radiation, and they all have their stories.
What would you say? 2 more questions. You said, you try to be upbeat, maybe 80% of the time, you're shooting for 90%, but there's also the 10% of the time. What gets you through that? What do you lean on?
Wow. Okay, that's also a choke-up type question.
Yeah. You don't have to.
No. I think it's important because people have told me that, I'll give you the story I had this week when I had the opportunity to walk into Kfar Aza, and I was there for about a half an hour. I got a tour, and I was there with Rob Early. We bumped into a woman who survived October 7th, and she was giving a tour to the people who actually saved her. She didn't really remember them because she said the day was, in a sense, like a fog in a phase. She only understood what happened in Nova 2 weeks later. She had to take care of her husband and kids, and she wished if somebody were to help her, the thing that she would have loved help with is taking her kids off her legs and just giving her some space to digest. That's what she needed. She's an amazing person. I only met her for a few minutes. Hopefully I'll get to meet her again. But I asked her this type of question of like, tell me, I see how you are today. And she says giving tours really, gives her that energy. But I said, how were you in the beginning stages? You're about 16, 17 months later. I'm only 4 months right now. She said, I'm telling you, it was the hardest. It was so hard, and I didn't want to get up. I met a number of people in these type of stages that it's not easy. And shout out to all these people who are going through, their trauma and going through, hopefully it will be a good trajectory to get them where they need to, and hopefully they'll get the right support. Yeah. And when I get down, I do want that alone time to walk around, but I want to be surrounded by people who are just positive. That's what I need, just a warm thought, not to like knock me down, to validate sometimes my thoughts and my feelings that maybe they're wrong or bad. You know what? Give it to me. I'm sick. Don't try to make up an excuse. I get some of those messages. I'm really sorry I've been busy and I haven't had a chance to visit you in 9 weeks. Honestly, shkayach, I've been also pretty busy. I'm sick. Find the time, find the 10 minutes, find the 20 minutes. So you know what? Go to sleep 20 minutes later. That's my charifas, I guess, of like my strength of like everybody has the time and I know it. I know you mean well. I don't really mean to call anybody out, but like I had Yaret Sippel, who got hurt a year ago in an army attack where 2 of his friends were killed and others were injured. And Yared Sippel came to visit me in the hospital from Petah Tikva, who was in and out of Shikum, to Hadassah and Ken, which is not a close ride. And I said, why did you come? And he said, my aunt told me to come. You're an important person. If someone like Yared Sippel and I got to go to his wedding and give him a hug and just see how amazing he looks, he found the time. Or another friend who came out of Jabalia, which is a location in Gaza that we're fighting, who found that's got to be a farther ride. And he was on his way to go see his wife and kid, but he came to see me first. I think everybody has time, and I think that's what sometimes makes me sad. It was where I think people do have the time. It's just not important enough for them, or they don't know how to do it. I'm giving everybody that opportunity to reach out, come visit, find the time. So maybe it won't be today, it might not be tomorrow, but it's important because these weeks do go in strands where, yes, you could have 50 people running in, and then, you go through strands of, we're going out and we're going to go visit places, and we have the other time where we'll have the visitor day, or just making time for the immediate family, which was also a lesson that I learned where, they sort of want to know, they don't know how much, and that's what my sister-in-law told me, is like, maybe you don't want to share with them everything. Maybe you do. Like, I have to figure out how to engage. And this is also for anyone who has that, the devices that have no WhatsApp on it, I firmly believe, get it. Use it for good. If you're having a hard time struggling with it, turn off your phone for 23 hours and for 1 hour, or even it takes 7 seconds to even just write, hi, how are you doing? And I have a lot of friends that they help me get through those times sometimes where I'll get a message. I'll be like, how are you doing today? It's a great line to say. Or after Shabbos, I get another messages and like, we hope you read this after Shabbos. Where last week I had a very tough Shabbos, and all of a sudden you get these messages and like, wow, we're going to start again, and we're going to, put a smile on, and we'll take every day one day at a time.
My last question is kind of to really squeeze the value of this conversation and this experience that you're going through for those of us trying to walk by your side and gaining and learning from you, and also trying to be there for you. What's something that JoCo today, Jonathan Cohen today, would tell Jonathan Cohen November 2024? What have you come to appreciate now that you would like to signal to those of us on the outside, or to yourself on the earlier version of yourself?
Wow. It's amazing. So maybe I'll use a line that I just heard this week from, I don't want to say who, just in case he can't say it out loud, but tomorrow will come. And whatever was left to get done today, it'll still be there. And I think everybody, the whole world at large, needs to take a step back, not to always feel that they're rushing. I love these, even adults, they're running to shul. Really?
I'm running to work. I'm running home.
They're using that term. Why are you not just walking? So you'll say, I maximize every second. You running all around your house doing your work, and you run like, everybody tells me things, and then they'll tell me, oh yeah, I had to watch Netflix for an hour and a half. Everyone needs downtime. They have to figure out what their downtime is, whether they go swimming, they play basketball, they read, maybe they're watching some type of show. I took off my Netflix from the summertime, just random. So whatever. If I need to listen to something in the background, I'll find one of my kids or my wife will put something on the background just so I could hopefully go to sleep. But I think what I've learned most importantly is that we have to be there more for each other. We have to find even just two people who maybe are going through something that we don't realize and figure out how we could be there for them. And it doesn't also have to be for that person. We once visited someone in the hospital. We were told they don't want any visitors. We went to visit somebody. We ended up on the wrong floor, and we ended up by the person who didn't want visitors. And we bumped into the spouse. And afterwards, we found out that the person was so appreciative that even though the spouse didn't want visitors, that person needed the visitor. So there is a whole family and there's a whole network of what's going on that could also use the reach out. And knowing how much is good and without prying too much. A lot of people I've learned in the last few months are out of work, or they're dealing with home situations. Now I can't just go run and go babysit, but I'll tell you one of the cutest things that I've taken upon myself, and people realize that it's not so hard anymore, is I'll ask them if they have some shopping bags. And I see they're struggling, they're looking for someone to help. I say, can I help you? They'll never take the help from me. I don't know why.
Now.
Yeah, but then they just figure it out on their own. They realize, wow, it's not so bad. And I think when people share sometimes stories, not of what it means to be a hero, I think being a hero also means going through challenges and creating opportunities. And again, some of these people that I've met, I would never have met them. And for an army to come to me, one of the commanders, and say, thank you so much what you've done for our community, and we've heard about you. So how can each and every one of us be known? Many of us are already doing it. I know a lot of silent tzaddikim in this neighborhood, and they should continue doing what they're doing silently. I don't think what they're doing needs to be made known. They know what they're doing, and now I sort of know what they're doing. But there are other people, I'm sure there's one or two things that they could find that could take on the next thing. It doesn't have to be day to day, because people are busy. And make sure that the work that you're doing, don't all quit your jobs, but make sure the work you're doing is meaningful to you so that you can make that impact. And what are you doing every day to make that impact on also the greater good? And it doesn't mean running to every little, I think I take on too much, not in a bad way, but I think everybody has to find their thing. For example, I've gone twice this week to go package sandwiches outside of Be'eri. I'm literally by the Be'eri corridor in different places. And these volunteers, they choose once a week that they do it, and that's their thing. It doesn't have to be 7 days a week. It could be like this is their thing that they do for Klal Yisrael, but they're doing something for the greater good of the Jewish people.
If you had a billboard, you got two lines you could put up.
So one would always be keep smiling, and I've seen that places. And remember that you're always looking at somebody else. That could be, I think ChatGPT could probably, put that together into a great slogan.
I think you got it. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing the time, your garden, and your story.
But you understand that? I just realized why I said it.
Why?
You ready for this? Because keep smiling means that other people are looking at you. And try to always see what's going on somebody else because you're looking at them.
You took us into your inner space, your Rishus HaYachid. You took us on the inside. But many say that your face is what shows to the world.
Oh.
And to realize people are looking.
I just made that up. That was not like planned.
No, you didn't make it. It came from the inside.
Wow.
But you practice this. And for many of us that know you and love you, this is what we see. That people are looking, and you're able to be real, and you're able to give yourself space to have those times that are not so pleasant, that are challenging and dark and heavy. But you also seem to make an effort that people are watching, people are looking, and you give us a smile, and it makes us smile, and it becomes a reverb. And the interesting thing is you're patient, but you're not only receiving, you're giving. And for those of us that think we're giving, we're also receiving. And to realize there's this exchange going on. That's the way the world goes.
Wow.
So thank you so much for this.
Thank you. This was very rewarding.
Should be a
You learn a lot. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.